Welcome again to another edition of Foundation Focus. I'm Jim McKenzie, the Executive Director for the Education Foundation, and we're so pleased that you tuned in today. With me are two guests. I have two great young ladies who have been very much involved in the Education Foundation. First is Deb Pesamente, who is our newest employee and is involved with community engagement. She'll be working with principals, teacher groups, as well as PTOs, SAC committees, and the general community in talking about the foundation, in working on our projects, our grants, our scholarships, and employee recognition. So welcome to the foundation, and welcome to your first edition of Foundation Focus, Deb.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate the trial by fire.
Well, we do have a lot of fun, and I'm certainly, as you well know, we've got a lot of things on our plate, and we'll be working on a number of items that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But I also wanted to introduce Jeanette Weiss, who is with J. Weiss Public Relations. And Jeanette and I go back, probably 15 years at this point. And Jeanette has been working over the last year in the background as a volunteer on a number of our projects, our website, newsletters, some of our fundraising, and has recently taken on helping us put together a video production that will talk about the foundation, our scholarships, grants, and employee recognition. And I wanted Jeanette here today to kind of talk about what her observations are from filming the video over the last couple of weeks. Jeanette, thank you and welcome.
Thanks for having me here today.
Jeanette, why don't you give a little bit of background as to how you've gotten involved with the foundation, your background in the community. You have both daughters who have gone through the school system and now have grandchildren, believe it or not,
oh my gosh.
In the school system. Tell us a little bit about your initial thoughts, and then as we got together and talked about things that you could help us out with the foundation.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's interesting because I grew up here in St. Lucie County. I'm a product of the St. Lucie County school system. And you're right, I had children that grew up in the St. Lucie County school system, and now my grandchildren are also in the St. Lucie County school system. So I've had years of experience on the in a certain level with the St. Lucie County school system, but in working with the video the past few months, I've been able to get into a deeper level, getting to know teachers and school staffs, other students, and principals and the school superintendent. So I've expanded my knowledge of the St. Lucie County school system to a much deeper level. It's been an amazing experience from many levels for me working on the video. I'd never really gotten into being a volunteer with the school system until I started working with the Education Foundation. I never really knew what the Education Foundation did in St. Lucie County. I assumed it was a part of the school system. I did not know that it was a separate entity and had to raise its own funds. Learning all about that has given me a complete new realization of what the teachers and the students and the schools in the St. Lucie County school system need from the community. Talking with all the staff and the students at the schools, I am so impressed, so very impressed with the dedication and the inspiration and the motivation that the staff has at the classroom level and at the school level and at the district level. Talking to the students and just seeing what the Education Foundation and the involvement that they've had with the students has been inspiring. Talking to scholarship winners, they're just so appreciative of the Education Foundation. Seeing the light in the teachers' eyes when they talk about the grants that they received through the Education Foundation and what it's done for them, their classrooms, and their schools is amazing. So it's been a wonderful experience all the way around.
Well, good, and we certainly appreciate everything that you've done and the support that you've given the foundation and the students. Deb, you're new on board, but you are a parent. You do have and been involved with a PTO. Tell us a little bit about your experience and why the foundation, or why you think the foundation is an important piece of of the overall success for our students and teachers.
Absolutely, Jim. You know, I had the honor and the privilege of being a stay-at-home mom up until probably this last year. I was a part-time employee, but in doing so, I was able to split my time between the home and the school. So I was there, and I got to hear over and over and over again from different teachers, support staff, and what have you. You know, they just want to feel appreciated. They need your time. They need your help. They need your hands. They need your brain. If you can make some calls, if you can bring in some snacks, do that. So I also have a lot of friends that are teachers and school administrators, and I've heard those personal stories in the past. You know, if we could get more parents involved. So I felt very passionate about helping out my school, certainly the school that my son's attending. And then, you know, being able to help you at the capacity that I'm helping with now, to be able to, as Jeanette alluded to, you know, help the teachers just to get a small classroom grant, something that they might need, a whiteboard or a media projection, something along those lines, or to take a nice field trip with their students. Things that, you know, the taxpayers don't think, they think that their bottom line has already been hit, but, you know, there are certain other items and needs that our schools and teachers certainly have. And if I'm in a position to help them to get those, then I certainly will do all I can to make that happen for them.
That's great. And like you said, I think it's important that the teachers are really the success stories and lead to the success stories for our students. And Jeanette, through the video, you've heard a couple of those success stories. And can you talk a little bit maybe about Pablo? I think he was one of the students who was really at risk. And, you know, tell us a little bit about what you learned about him and the folks that attended to his needs.
It was a really inspiring story, because the student talked about the fact that he came from a home where his parents did not only not graduate high school, but they didn't speak English. And he really wasn't focused on going to college or even graduating high school. He was just doing what he had to do to get through each day, and really did not plan on graduating high school. And through the Welcome Center and the First Generation program at the schools that he was attending, he became very involved with a couple mentors. In fact, he said they nagged him every day and they were on his case every day. Not only did he start thinking about graduating high school, but he started to think about what he wanted to do after high school. He did want to go to college. He did want to be a success and be able to support himself and in turn help his family. That was just one of the student successes. There were several students that I talked to that shared the same type of story. And then there were the teachers that talked about different grants that they received. And one in particular I thought was just enlightening. A teacher noticed that students were having trouble on their FCATs with measurements. They received a grant from the Education Foundation which helped them go buy supplies for the students to build birdhouses. And in building birdhouses, they had to actually use measuring in a real-world situation, and it increased their FCAT scores in that particular field. So there's a lot of stories like that we can share, you know, because of the Education Foundation and their grants.
No, and I think that is one of the things that the foundation tries to link. It's what does the course study that a student is taking on, and how does that affect them in real life? You know, we hear students all the time say, I'll never use algebra. But then you start talking about the careers that involve engineering, and algebra is the only thing that they do. So having career counselors, career spokespersons come into the classroom and talk about their particular career, how they advanced and moved into all of the programs that they had to, and how they fall back on their basics. Mm-hmm. Their basics. Deb, you know, you've been on board for all of a week now.
1 week, yeah.
Tell us some of the things that you've been working on to this point.
Oh, sure. This is a really exciting time of the year at the foundation. You know, best thing I keep telling everyone about was my Publishers Clearinghouse Day that I had the opportunity to visit with, the superintendent and yourself and our esteemed board members. And we got to go out and surprise the School-Related Employee of the Year finalists. So we were at Parkway and Alapata Flats and Palm Point, and we get to do that again in a few weeks for the Teacher of the Year. We won't say when because we want to make it a surprise. We're also working on the Night of the Stars, which recognizes and honors those particular individuals, as well as our Distinguished Minority Leader and First Year Leader. We're really, really excited about that. We have our spring program that's coming up. We're still working on a name for it. It's Cruising into Excellence or something along those lines, but we're working on that. That'll be on April 25th at the Port St. Lucie Civic Center. And it's going to be open to the public, anyone that wants to come and support us. We have obviously teachers and staff and related employees that we're going to invite first and foremost for a nominal $45. You can certainly take part in that. We also have our welcome back party that we'll be doing later in the summer up at the Vineyard. And then throughout, we're just going to be drumming up support in the community, because in order to keep kids here and to retain our, these good kids, keep them here at home, we have to have that bridge between the business community, those folks that are going to want to employ these kids, and the students themselves. So if we're giving them home-based, homegrown grants, maybe when they finish at Florida State or at Florida, they'll come home and be productive members of our community here. So, looking forward into the future, all of these little things that we do, these events that we hold, hopefully they'll keep that in the back of their minds and they'll come home and they'll be proud to live here and work here in St. Lucie County like we are.
Well, and I'll just correct you. It's Florida and then Florida State. We've already created a rivalry within the office, so it's really fun. You spoke about the Night of the Stars. The Night of the Stars is February 22nd. That Saturday evening. It's where the foundation honors those individuals who excel as far as their Teacher of the Year, school-related employee, Distinguished Minority Teacher of the Year, and Outstanding First Year. Jeanette, you've had an opportunity to interview a couple of those folks. What's your feedback? What has it meant to them? Why is it important to support that kind of an event for the foundation and for our employees?
It's funny because before I became involved with the Education Foundation and producing the video, I never really understood how important the Teacher of the Year and other recognition programs were for our staff and our teachers. But after talking to the teachers, this is one of the most important things that we can do for them. I talked to several teachers who have been Teacher of the Year, and it has inspired them to work harder, to share with their peers their skills and their talents. It's inspired teachers around them to be better teachers. It has bolstered their careers and helped their careers to grow. Some that started out as a teacher now are training other teachers, or they're working in the administrative offices of the St. Lucie school system and helping other teachers in other ways and other staff. But when you talk to them and you say, how important was it to you, their face just lights up and they say, you just cannot understand what it feels like to be up on that stage and to get that recognition for all the hard work that you've done in the last year. And they appreciate it so much, and they completely support it now. They're actively involved in the Teacher of the Year and recognition programs.
Yeah, and with any organization or business, recognizing those who excel is always extremely important. Deb, you had mentioned, when we were having conversations about you joining the foundation, that you had conversations with teachers and through your PTO, and what recognition meant to them.
Yeah.
You want to?
Absolutely. We when I joined the PTO at River's Edge, I was just kind of an ancillary member. This year, I've taken on a more upfront role. My close personal friend and myself are on a Random Act of Kindness subcommittee. And the reason that our PTO president set that subcommittee up was because more often than not, when she asked, what is it that you need? How can your PTO help you? They just said they wanted to feel appreciated. And, it's as a mom, you know, I certainly want my son to feel, to build his esteem. That's one of my biggest jobs in his life, is to make him confident and have him help, you know, go out and become a better human being. So just something simple, like making them feel appreciated, it seemed like an easy fit, something that we could simply do. So we started out, we have a small budget that our PTO has given to us, and we created personal wraps for them all at the holiday time. They got to custom order a wrap. We've given them little tokens and pens and different things that they've specifically asked for that they would have had to buy out of their own pocket if we hadn't had our small budget to proceed with that type of thing. So, you know, and the feedback that Deb, our PTO president, has gotten has just been outstanding. She says, you know, whatever these guys are doing, please continue, and we hope to move forward. And, you know, certainly Marisol and I will continue that until our kids move on to Southern Oaks or onto middle school.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And I think that one of the things that I want to be sure our listeners know that they can help with our Adopt a Class program. Our website is easily accessible, educationfoundationstlucie.org. You go to Adopt a Class, you pick a school, then a teacher or a particular discipline or a particular grade, and you can go on and immediately adopt that person's class. Thank you is sent to you as the adopter, and a notice is sent to the teacher that their classroom was adopted, and that they'll have some extra funding to buy the things that are not part of their normal budget, or things that they may need for their classroom to really engage the students a little bit more.
Right, and as I mentioned earlier, I had the luxury of being a stay-at-home mom. You know, it was hard to make ends meet sometimes, but the most important role that my husband and I decided would be for one of us to be home with the child. So we're home with him, and we had that luxury. But other parents don't have that. You know, they have to clock in at 7 and they have to be there all day, and they might not have the time to go to the school and help out. So the Adopt a Classroom is just, it's really key to helping them feel like they're being part and giving back, and certainly to having their teachers reward their children with those successes.
Now, Jeanette, you've had an opportunity to adopt a class, which is great, and you know, it was, I thought, you know, from what you've told me, it was very easy to do, and so that was, you know, kind of important to you to be able to, while you didn't have the time, you were at least able to support that teacher and let that teacher know that they were appreciated, that you wanted to help out in some way, shape, or form.
And in essence, it's helping my child or my grandchild, actually, by adopting a class. You know, as a parent or grandparent, I just always assumed that all of the teachers' needs were covered. But then when I found out that a lot of the teachers have to dig into their own pockets for special projects they really felt were important in helping to teach their students, and that their budgets are really constrained. They live as much on a budget as the rest of us, if not more. So it was you know, difficult for me to sit back and watch the teachers have to do that. And it was easy. It was simply going onto the website, clicking on one button, and I was able to go in and adopt a classroom.
That's great, and certainly that teacher is very appreciative of what you've been able to do. We talked a little bit about the Night of the Stars and employee recognition. We touched briefly on the grant process. You had a number of grant teachers that you were able to talk to. The Playhouse or the Birdhouse, was that Lauren Kapler's project?
Yes.
Yeah, and then she also was part of the NASA group.
Yes.
Also, and
there was
her reflections a little bit.
Well, and with her with the NASA project, she was able to actually take students up to Cape Canaveral to NASA on a field trip because of a grant from the Education Foundation. Another teacher wanted to produce a musical at her school, and initially it involved just her class, and eventually involved the entire school. And now other schools have adopted that same program, and that was all because of a grant through the Education Foundation. But one of the items that every one of them said was how easy it was to get that grant from the Education Foundation. None of them are real experienced at writing complicated, complex grants. So they were a little, afraid that it would be a difficult process. And they said not only is it easy, the principals support it and give them all the tools they need in order to write a successful grant. And there are staff at the administrative level that are quite experienced at writing it too. So they get all the assistance they need to make writing this grant as easy as possible.
And, having reviewed almost every one of those grants, they all put their little personal touches in. They all put what they really think will be accomplished. And you could almost, in some cases, get to the point where you actually know the students almost by name as to what they feel like they can really accomplish out of that. And I must say that we've taken a little change of direction. There were not as many classroom grants this year, but there were a lot more grants, and I think this gets to the point of that involve collaborative work amongst teachers so that they don't feel like they're on an island all by themselves. A lot of getting 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades, and let's have a plan for the students. What do we do if they don't pass their 3rd grade FCAT, and how do we handle that in 4th and 5th grade so that the student doesn't feel like he's out of place, or the student that gets left back. So that one of the things that I've learned over the process, if a student fails in 3rd grade, and mostly as a result of the FCAT, they stay back. Now you take that again, and they don't pass their FCAT coming out of middle school, and they stay back again. You now have a student that may enter high school 2 years behind everyone that he or she has already started school with. Mm-hmm. Cohorts is what they call them. And that's very difficult to overcome. And that's why we've placed a lot of resources into the intervention programs so that students feel like they have a place to come. Someone is looking for them and moving forward in those ways. Our scholarship program comes up in May. That's going to be May 8th. We have a scheduled speaker already. Deb is kind of working on that a little bit. But, Jeanette, you had an opportunity to talk to a couple of the scholarship kids. We talked a little bit about Pablo, but how about the scholarship kids? What is that scholarship that they received done for them in helping them get acclimated, get into their first year, get started at a college or university?
Well, for most of these students, the scholarships are the only way that they are able to go to college. They would not be able to go to college without scholarships, and that's for probably most of these students. And after talking to a few of them, they said, number one, the teachers and the staff at the school that helped them apply for the scholarships was just critical. They wouldn't have known where to begin. But then getting the scholarships meant that they could go either locally to a local college or somewhere as close as FAU, or they could go, to the University of West Florida up in the Panhandle. Their doors were wide open for them, and they were able to choose a field or a career that they really wanted to be in. They weren't limited, and that was one of the things that they really, stressed, was that they felt like they had no limitations, no boundaries. As a business owner, I know how important it is that these kids graduate high school, they go to college, they get educated, and then, if possible, they bring their skills and their talents back to St. Lucie County, where they can become productive members of our community. We need a whole new workforce to come into St. Lucie County with new skills, the new technology, and the knowledge of the new technology to take over for those of us that will be retiring in the next few years. And we have a lot of new businesses coming into St. Lucie County that are going to be looking for those skilled workers. So giving scholarships to these students, allowing them to go to college and then come back here, is critical to the economic development of our own county.
All right. And Deb, you had an opportunity yesterday to talk with our speaker, and and she kind of alluded to how important it was to her to have a scholarship from the foundation and then go on. You want to relay a little bit about that?
Yeah, she's a dynamo. Can I say her name?
Sure.
Okay. Ashley Mock with the Children's Services Council will be our speaker at Scholarship Day, our keynote speaker, and she's a dynamo. You know, she told us, you know, point blank that, you know, she came back, she missed being home, she missed her community, and she got back here and she got in with the Children's Services Council after she left some sort of finance job, you know, so it sounded like it could have been quite lucrative for her maybe in the long run, but she's back with the Children's Services Council, and you know, some of those rewards that you take away from a job are much better than the paycheck. But can you imagine the stories that Ashley has, you know, with the kids that she and Sean have been able to serve here in St. Lucie County for the past 8 or 9 years.
Graduate from LPA.
Yep.
Went to South Florida, or in Tampa, I think she said. And received a scholarship from the foundation, and has now turned full circle. Worked for a while, then came home, now is raising a family, and is going to be the speaker to other students receiving their scholarships in May.
Yeah.
So you know, there's a lot of energy there, I think.
Absolutely.
From the standpoint that you know, we have someone that was successful in our community, that came through the school system. You know, and I think one of the important things that you brought out, Jeanette, is the fact that over 15% of last year's graduating students were the first in their generation to attend college. It's an amazing number. I mean, it's a big statistic when you think that we graduated 2,700 students last year.
And when you think about the fact that, you know, these students not coming from families who have college graduates, not only are they going to be the first one to go to college, but they're going to be the first ones to really have a successful career, you know, whatever field they choose. And they feel like they are supporting their family by doing this. They're honoring their family, and they're honoring the scholarships that were provided to them.
Well, Jeanette and Deb, I want to thank you very much for being here with us. It's always interesting to hear about the success stories, and it's rewarding for me to have two young ladies like yourselves to be involved with helping us to provide for the students. As we say, we try to enhance the success of every student in St. Lucie County through the foundation, through our pillars. Thank you for watching. This has been another edition of Foundation Focus, brought to you by the Education Foundation of St. Lucie County.